We hadn't been to Santee in about 6, 7, 8 years. I believe 94 was last year, somebody said, but this lake is just full of big old bass. Nearly everything you hook is a good one, so it's going to take a lot of weight.
It's the best fishing that I've had since I've been to El Salto in Mexico, and you know, that says a lot. I would die and go to heaven to be able to fish tomorrow.
The lake's back, and after practice, I said this is going to be a slugfest, and it is. There's stringers behind me I think might blow me out.
It's just such a good lake, you can't make a mistake out here.
This place is just nuts. South Carolina's got something to be proud of.
For around 70 years, South Carolina's been proud of the Santee Cooper Lakes, located in the southeast corner of the state. 2 lakes that have produced big fish for anglers for years. The action has slowed a bit recently, but now the big bass are back in big numbers again. In the first 2 days of this tournament, the full field weighed in 4,700 pounds. Day 2 alone, 54 20-pound-plus limits.
Conditions are almost perfect right now. You see the sun's out and the fish are getting shallow and they're wanting to eat, so it's awesome.
Zell Rowland of Texas led the way into day number 3 as 12 pros fished to qualify for the finals. Rowland, who is having a great year so far, is definitely into something special here on Santee Cooper, having caught 30-plus pounds on day number 3. 5 almost identical 6-pound fish. Incredible. And on this day, he keeps the lead with a smaller limit. Just what is going on here? Kirsten Gum is with last year's Angler of the Year and South Carolina fisherman Davey Hype, who's been a Santee Cooper fan for years.
Davey, you're a South Carolina native. What is going on here at Santee Cooper? This is incredible.
It is just unbelievable. We're at the perfect place at the perfect time with the best fishermen in the world.
Okay, we have seen more than 50 anglers bring in 20 pounds plus on the second day of qualifying. Oh my. Is this how it is all the time?
No, it's not like that all the time here or anywhere else in the world. In 10 years on a Bassmaster tournament trail, I've never seen anything like this. It's just phenomenal. Big fish are moving in pre-spawn, and they just keep coming in, and guys are just plucking them off, and it's just unbelievable.
Well, the natives are a bit shocked, but everyone's pumped. We are definitely ready to take the plunge into some of the hottest bass fishing in America as our final round gets underway.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Busch.
Well, hi and welcome to the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. I'm Tommy Sanders along with Jerry McInnes, and you picked a good one to tune into today. What a tournament we have had down at Santee Cooper. These guys have put on a show so unusual in terms of the size of the fish, the numbers of those big fish. And Jerry, on the final qualifying day, the 3rd day of the tournament, we had another unusual event, but one of our contenders wasn't necessarily that good.
Well, first of all, Tom, I want to say that I'm going to be here to see Zell Rowland catch a 4-day total of 100 pounds of bass.
That could happen.
I'm going to see it.
It is.
But you're right. Edwin Evers, our champion from Eufaula on our very last event, made an honest mistake. And to explain it, I'm going to go back to his very first fish of the day on that 3rd day.
It is a giant. A giant. Ooh, man, that's a good one. That's a good one. That is a good one. Oh, yes. Oh, barely hooked there. Yeah, that's the way to start the day, man. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Again, the very first fish of the day. His day was sensational. He just kept going like that. Tommy, he was culling 3- and 4-pound bass today. But here's the rub. He comes in at the weigh-in. He lets his amateur out of the boat. Larry Butler from Vermont, his amateur, takes his 5 fish out to the weigh-in. And behind the weigh-in, in his boat, it was discovered that Edwin had 6 fish left. And that is a no-no.
Total violation of the rules. You cannot have 6 fish. And the way the bass officials have to deal with that is they have to weigh all your fish, cull then your largest fish. That's going to be that big 7-pound plus fish. We just saw him catch right there. He loses that one, has to swap it for the smallest fish in the creel, the 2-pounder, a net loss of 5 pounds in this competition, and that certainly disappoints Edwin Evers.
I brought in 6 fish. That's a big no-no in these tournaments, and it's a stupid, stupid mistake, and I don't know how it happened, but it did, and they took away 6 pounds from me. Talk about a $100,000 mistake. I'm paying for it, I promise you.
Well, a big setback for Edwin Evers, but guess what? Not too big. He still makes the finals. Let's meet the rest of our Super Six right now.
I'm Chad Morgenthaler. I have 64 pounds and 9 ounces. I'm 11 pounds and 2 ounces behind the leader.
I'm Larry Nixon. I've got 68 pounds and 2 ounces. I need 714 just to catch up.
I'm Edwin Evers. I have 69.2, and I need 614 to pull even.
I'm Marc Davis. I've got 69 pounds and 4 ounces, and I'm 6 pounds and 12 ounces behind.
I'm Kevin Vandam. I've caught 69.11, and I've got 8.5 hours to make up 6 pounds.
I'm Zell Rowland. I'm 6 pounds ahead of the guy in second place. I've got 5 guys trying to catch me, and I think I'm going to catch 25 pounds today.
Well, our leader's feeling confident. Everything's in place. Let's see if Santee Cooper can offer up one more day of amazing fishing. We're betting that it will, and we'll see some terrific competition to boot. Don't go anywhere.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, by Bush, and by Skeeter.
Our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event from the Santee Cooper Lakes in the southeastern portion of South Carolina. A lot of water, 150,000 acres of fishable water. 2 big lakes, Marion and Moultrie. Throw out Marion this week. It's going on Moultrie. That's where we see Marc Davis.
And Marc Davis is saying, who is Zell Rowland? Well, let me add him. Hey, these guys are all fishing in fairly shallow water, 1 and 2 feet, probably in Marc Davis's case right here. 3 or 4 feet deep for some of our anglers, but wait a minute, Tommy.
Now he's really showing off now hand lining these fish. Come on.
That noise we heard there a second ago was his reel dropping off.
One way to get him in.
Dropping off his rod, yeah.
Marc says one way to get him in. Marc and all the rest of our anglers are in their spots, are getting down to business, and this week we really need to know where those spots are.
Yeah, and you were right. Marion, you can throw it out. It's used for the launching area. I guess that's about all, and everybody makes their way through the chute and into Moultrie. And during the qualifying days, lots of fish catches, and I'll bet you 75% of all the fish were caught in this area right here, and that's where the anglers are. Yeah, Evers is up here to the north, but everybody else is down that west bank, Tommy. Look here, Vandam, Nixon. Nixon's in the Duck Pond Flat area. Marc Davis and Morgenthaler are in the fish hatchery area. Zell Rowland needs 25 pounds of bass to break that 100-pound mark.
To hit that century mark. He's at Panopolis Point, the other side of the point, a spot he has made this spot pay all week long.
This is just a pretty unique little spot. We're in a little bitty bay. It's got an island sort of out in the middle of it. And right behind that island's a real shallow little flat. It's not but about 15 yards long, 15 yards wide, and it's about, probably about 70 yards long. And then fish are funneling in out off these deeper flats up into that little gut. And it's going to be interesting to see how good the fishing gets, but I've really been, there's a big one. This is one I've been looking for. Oh, it's a 5-pounder. No, he's not that. We'll start the day with him.
Larry Nixon of Bee Branch, Arkansas, 3rd on the all-time money-winning list. And how about this? 78 finishes through his career in the top 10.
I'm more or less hunting for openings. These fish are, I think they're set up in these little old clearings. They're not set up to bed, because I have not seen no beds in here. So I think what they're doing is they sit around these little holes early in the morning, and that's where they ambush. So what I'm targeting is just the biggest openings I can find. I haven't been able to catch any at all flipping in this thick stuff, and I have flipped it every day just trying to catch a big one. It's just like they don't really want in the heavy cover. You know, this is the time of year them darn fish, they move. One day they'll kind of be out a little bit, and the next day they'll be up in the up in that shallow stuff.
Larry with another fish on there. Take a look at our scoreboard down in the left corner there. We'll always give you the leader's total. Below that, the other 5 guys, what they need in order to catch the leader.
And Larry Nixon is fishing slow. You know, that's one of the hardest things for a professional angler to do is to fish slow, but it's very important on this go-around.
Most places. Santee Cooper, you better cull that one.
I fished my first BASS event when I was 13 years old.
Zell Rowland is a true veteran professional bass fisherman.
And it was the coldest I think I've ever been in my life. It was at Table Rock. It was back in 1970 on Table Rock, Missouri, snowing. And I caught one bass. That was back when the length limit on fish was 10 inches. I caught one 3.5 pounder, outweighed my partner's 10 fish limit. The press guy sort of killed him. I got a picture of it. The newspaper up there in Missouri sent me a copy of it a while back.
Like all the hardcore pros, Zell remembers every fish he ever caught and pretty much how much it weighed.
He's actually picking up a little weight on the guys, and we're just getting started here. And I tell you what, he's fishing with a lot of confidence, don't you think? Man, you know, you saw him around the weigh-in area, out in the crowd. He just, you know, it has an air about him where he knows that he's going to catch a 20 to 30-pound stringer of fish today. And, of course, that is so important. You don't realize how important confidence is to these fishermen, but it is.
It would be hard for anyone to sit on a place like Zell's been sitting for the past 3 days and not have a certain measure of confidence.
Nixon and Davis have got to get on the ball. Of course, those guys are throwing worms, throwing weightless worms, as a matter of fact. And as you can tell, Zell is throwing a spinnerbait.
Give me about 2 more of them, I'll be a happy camper. I did that just for you. And I ain't had a... Oh, yeah, I'm getting ready to dance. Oh. Move that boat. That's a real big one here.
Zell Rowland already with 12 pounds on his next nearest pursuer. If he gets a big one in the boat here, it could be lights out for the rest of these guys.
And, of course, Nixon's just a few pounds out of second place, so they got a good race going on right there. But you know what, Zell, I said this earlier, Zell is after that 100-pound mark.
Tough on him. Whoa, I'm getting ready.
Zell Rowland in the driver's seat. Edwin Evers still in the hunt in spite of the penalty on day number 3. We'll check in with him and Kevin Vandam when we return. Don't go away. The Citgo Bassmaster Tour, our event on Santee Cooper in South Carolina. Zell Rowland has the commanding lead on this final day. One of the anglers in pursuit is this fellow right here, Edwin Evers of Oklahoma. Edwin won our last outing down on Lake Eufaula in Alabama.
But we found out he won his first tournament in a kick boat, Tommy.
Back when he was 13 years old.
Oh, how about that? Edwin could be one of our real rising stars here. He's throwing a spinnerbait, just like Zell. He's covering lots of water with it. Hey, Davey said earlier, Davey Hyde said a lot of new fish are coming in, and boy, that is perfect for spinnerbaits.
I think the water's dropped a bunch in here, and I'm not going near as far back in. I'm going to just focus right here in this deeper water for a minute and then probably move back out. But the water's fallen a bunch since yesterday again. I think the bigger fish are going to be out further. We'll just have to wait and see here in a minute. We'll process of elimination, start trying to figure them out this morning.
Edwin Evers getting a little tuned in to today's conditions. Now over to Kevin Vandam, having a slow day so far. And Kevin, we thought it would be interesting if you would compare the conditions that you're dealing with today with those conditions of, say, the second day of the tournament when you were catching all those big fish.
Well, huge difference. You know, the lake was about a foot higher, and, you know, it was just on the beginning of that good warming trend, and the fish were just moving up. We had big, strong thunderstorms and, you know, a ton of wind, and the fish were just really active and eating. And the last 2 days, it's been, you know, flat. Today, it's kind of a little hazy and cloudy, but there's really no wind, and there's just a ton of pine pollen on the water, and it's made it very difficult for me. I'm just out on a big flat pitching at stumps, and that pollen has really made it hard to see the stumps, and the wind hasn't blown it away yet, and the sun's not out to where it helps you see, and so I'm just kind of biding my time until the weather gets a little bit better. There's just a little bit of breeze picking up, and that's really what I need to kind of blow this pollen out.
Well, Kevin, I want to know where you get the discipline to fish as slow as you need to fish the way these fish are biting here today.
Well, it takes a lot of confidence in the area that you're in. You know, actually, I'm fishing through here pretty fast, making a lot of pitches, but when I cast the bait out there, I'm fishing it real slow. And, oh, I just missed one. They're starting to bite real funny, you know. At first, they were just up and cruising. Now they're, you know, now a lot of them are locked on beds, and they're biting to where you miss them, just like I did that one there. I'm almost on top of them. Sometimes you can pitch right in there and catch them, though.
All right, thanks, Kevin Vandam. They're working with the two. Meanwhile, Chad Morgenthaler down in the fish hatchery area doing something a little bit different, throwing the buzz bait, as a matter of fact, this morning.
First couple of days I caught my fish. I'd only get 2 or 3 bites a day on a buzz bait, but they were huge. Yeah, I caught an 8-pounder and a 7-pounder the first tournament day on it on Thursday. Then on Friday, I caught all my fish on it because it was cloudy and windy. I must have had 40 bites on it in about 2 hours. And I was just ripping it. I mean, I was bringing it. Thinking maybe now if I slowed it down a little bit, I could still entice one to come up and try it. Like that one. A lot of times what you can do is follow up with a fluke. I should have been better prepared.
Chad Morgenthaler's intention was to use a tactic we certainly saw down at Lake Eufaula to follow up a missed fish on a buzz bait with a piece of plastic there.
And when he said he wasn't prepared, he meant that that rod wasn't ready to go. He had to get the lure unhooked, and, you know, there's a good chance that that fish could have left that area there while he was getting his lure ready, but he was really lucky through that fluke out there. And normally, if you can throw a fluke in the area, it's going to work out all right.
Come here, baby. That's what we're looking for right there. That's what we were looking for right there. Followed her up with the old fluke, and she bit. #1 and a good one to have.
Boy, Evers made a nice little move all the way up to 3rd place from 5th place, and he's doing what we call dead sticking. I don't need to that point. You saw that fish raise up and probably swallowed that Cinco, and he broke him off. Can't have that, Edwin.
Well, you can't know how big that fish was. It had been a 3-pounder, which is about average or a little less than average. You could have really challenged Marc Davis for 2nd place with that one if he had landed him.
You know, Kevin Vandam, you know, we talk about fishing slow, and for Kevin, that doesn't fit in with his style hardly at all, but he's giving it a whirl. You know what? He said he's fishing real fast till he gets to the right place, and then he slows down.
I wish I could have had you here the first day of the tournament. It's a good feeling to have about 27 pounds in the boat in about 45 minutes. And there were so many of them in here, I was watching 5 and 6 pounders blow up. Oh, he'll get rid of him. There we go. Come here, baby.
Zell seems to know that's a good one.
Listen to that line singing through there.
That's a good sign.
He's having the dream that every professional bass angler has. Matter of fact, every angler has, to be able to sit there and catch 3 and 4 pounders at will. And Tommy, that's just about what he's doing. He's catching on every cast.
Get rid of the one I just caught with the 3-pounder.
He's 7 pounds away from that magic number 100, and this is turning into a battle of the weightless worms against Zell's spinnerbait.
Well, Zell Rowland is still living that dream. I doubt anyone can catch him, but can Marc Davis separate himself from Larry Nixon and the rest of the pack, establish a solid 2nd place? Lots more fishing to come, so don't go away. Our Citgo Bassmaster Tour event from Santee Cooper in South Carolina. It is safe to say that Santee Cooper is definitely back at this point. Used to be down a little bit, but boy, they've been catching such big limits all week long. Lots of big fish. A lot of them caught by this guy right here, Marc Davis.
And Marc Davis is really tuned into that fish hatchery area. I don't think he's left there all day long. And if you can look around the boat, you're going to see shallow grass and lily pads. And just telling you that's very shallow water. And that's where these fish are at right now. They're trying to get in there and spawn. Man, is he proud of that one. Caught it on a floating worm.
Marc Davis locked in a battle for second place right now. A good battle with Edwin Evers, who's just added 2 fish. Also just adding 2 fish is a guy that lives just up the road from Marc Davis, Larry Nixon from Bee Branch, Arkansas.
From Mount Ida to Bee Branch, Arkansas.
Not too far.
How about that? Love covering Larry Nixon because he's such an interesting, hey, he's maybe one of the all-time greats at this sport. But I have to tell you, Tommy, he hates throwing a wacky worm, and a wacky worm is what he's doing today.
You would think he was in a straitjacket the way he's moaning and groaning.
Yeah, he's hollering about that.
Well, we talked about Marc Davis. Marc Davis is one of the guys who is locked into that Bush Angler of the Year race. He's right up there in the top 10. Let's take a look at the guy on top right now. It was Bud Pruitt coming into this week, but the fishing at Santee Cooper has changed things around. Elton Luce, another Texan, is on top there, and a third Texan is in third place. Guess who? Zell Rowland, our leader today.
Look what I've got here. I've got Zell Rowland spinnerbait. This is actually an Excalibur spinnerbait. Has a 3/4 ounce head. It's chartreuse body, and he talks about slow rolling it, which means he's bringing it back to the boat real slow. And this willow leaf blade, a gold one on the front and a silver one on the back, really helps that slow rolling process. Lets the bait come nice and slow and straight right back to the boat. And we talked about his honey hole a little bit earlier. I want to take another look at that now, if you don't mind, Tommy, and you will see that it is truly a honey hole, and we'll pull the water out of it and look at it. In the first part of the week, the water line was right up there, and old Roland was catching his fish all along that bank. Bam, the water drops maybe 2 feet, and now you would think he was catching the fish out here. No, those fish dropped out of that area, and they're in this little gap right here and in these little deep spots. And if you'll notice, his island is right there, shoreland. You can see that in our picture lots, and his casts are right up into that gap. And Zell, we've got your attention right now, and I have to ask you that the first 2 days of the tournament, the fish you were catching are probably on dry land today.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, I'm still catching them on a spinnerbait, except instead of buzzing it through that grass like I was the first 2 days, it's now I'm out on the little ledge that runs off the edge of this little flat, and I'm just more or less slow rolling the bait and letting it come down that little contour. On this lake, it seems like a foot of water is the difference between 2 and 10 foot somewhere else, because this lake's got a lot of real shallow water in it.
Well, Zell, you're obviously having a great year, best year you've had in a good long while. Can you think of anything? Can you put your finger on anything that's different about this year?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is my fiance Kim. She's taking a lot of the workload off me at home with the sponsor paperwork and a lot of the phone calls, and it allows me to really focus pretty much on 2 things, and one of them is preparation, getting ready to go to an event, and the other thing, it allows me to relax a little more and play with my tackle and stuff while I'm at the house.
I caught some real big old fish in practice on this little old stupid wacky worm. Sometimes fish stay shallow, just, you know, when the water's falling like it is here, they stay there. It's just that they get so spooky any kind of a big bait or fast-falling bait, you can't catch them.
Larry Nixon currently about 3 pounds behind Marc Davis in that battle for second place.
And I love seeing him fish with spinning tackle, Tommy. If I'm not mistaken, the last time we saw that was on Lake St. Clair, catching those big smallmouth.
Big smallmouth.
And he's probably fishing 10-pound test line. And the secret here, and boy, I want our viewer to really watch his rod. He keeps the rod tip very high. He does not let that rod come down low enough where the fish is actually putting pressure on the line.
You can quit this anytime you want.
He thinks it's a big fish. Now, of course, if Larry can land a 3-pounder or better, he's going to take over second place.
Yeah, he could jump Evers and put the pressure on Marc Davis, couldn't he?
Actually jump over Marc Davis with a 3.5-pounder.
Am I just hoping?
So if he can stay away from the stump right now, again, watch his rod. Larry's good at this, boy. Is he good to do it, Tom?
Oh, I don't know.
Do we have a new man in second place?
We do.
You couldn't stand my old wacky worm, could you, big boy? Yes. Believe I'll call me a fish now.
Larry, you just called one. While you're doing it, we're going to take an underwater look at your favorite way of throwing that worm, wacky worm style, which is just taking a bare hook. And in this case, taking a trick worm, hooking it right in the middle, and letting it fall right straight to the bottom. Now, a lot of the other fishermen are dead sticking worms, which is taking a tiki worm or a Cinco and burying the hook back into the worm, kind of Texas style, makes it real weedless, and again, letting it fall straight down. But every now and then you take your rod tip and you twitch it back and forth. Give it a little bit of life.
That's a good fish, too.
Chad Morgenthaler trying to get something going here. He and Kevin Vandam, though, the two guys trying to crawl out of the cellar today.
Number 4.
Number 4 on a green tiki worm. He was dead sticking. And Chad's been in the old fish hatchery area all day long, along with Marc Davis. And Evers is still in Russellville Flats. None of these guys are moving much.
Edwin Evers already 3 top 12 appearances so far this year. He's had a magnificent year. Of course, that big win over on Eufaula has really made his year for him.
And that spinnerbait will cover a lot more property than dead sticking or throwing a trick worm or anything like that.
Evers has landed it. We also see Kevin Vandam has also added a fish.
Crushed that thing out there. Man, I thought it was a toad. I thought it was one of them big ones we're looking for, but we'll get 5 and we'll go for toads. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Edwin Evers making very sure he knows exactly how many keepers are in that live well. He's not going to repeat yesterday's fiasco.
Well, who's counting for Zell? Are you doing it, Tommy?
I hope he's not. He's doing it.
Hey, let me tell you, Zell found these fish in practice and knew what he had. And that doesn't sound like a very big deal, but a lot of anglers would go in there and get a strike or catch a fish and not realize what was going on there. But, boy, he got away from it, practiced in some other areas, and, boy, that's where he started in the tournament. He has done a great job with his fish.
Oh, thank you. Now's when I wish I had a scale. This is a big one. This 6-pounder.
I think Zell Rowland knows that nothing is going to stop his train at this point in the proceedings. I think he's just kind of playing around, especially on that last fish, just giving himself a breather and letting the fish swim around the boat.
He's getting silly, isn't he, Tom?
It's getting out of hand.
Hey, look, his boat, and I want you to look at our vision out there when we raise up. You can see that island. He's got his boat in the perfect position all the time. He's making that perfect cast, and he does know it in good night.
Oh, that is
Which
silly.
Fish
That is silly.
There. My goodness, is he in good shape?
Now Marc Davis. Now he has been passed by Larry Nixon. Nixon's is a half a pound ahead of him in second place right now. We'll see if Marc can rear back, deliver another punch to Nixon, and move into second place
Well,
again.
have they ever competed against each other before?
A couple of times it seems like I heard about it.
And that's something we don't talk much about. We always talk about techniques and locations and one thing and another, but these guys are competitors. They know how to compete. They want second place. They probably realize they cannot catch Rowland at this time, but they want second place. They want to beat somebody by 1 spot in the standings.
Well, Marc Davis takes over second place with that fish again, back and forth between him and Nixon. Kevin Vandam, however, he needs a miracle. We're going to check on him when we come back and check on all the other scores. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back to Santee Cooper momentarily.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo, by Bush, and by Skeeter.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tour, what an event we are having this week on Santee Grouper. A once-in-a-lifetime type experience for a lot of these anglers. Take a look at the weights, the big fish that have been caught this week. I'll give you an example. The second day of competition, 54 limits brought in that weighed more than 20 pounds. 3 of them 30-pound plus limits. 8 amateurs brought in limits of more than 20 pounds. That gives you an idea of what's been going on here. Take a look at our leaderboard, and Zell Rowland doing a great job of maintaining that substantial lead he started with on this final day. Look at the battle for second place, though, between Marc Davis and Larry Nixon. Big names, big fish. We got it all going for us this week. Another big name, well, he's not doing so well today. Kevin Vandam. People thought he might do a little bit better, but as we join him out on the lake there, Kevin always trying. And right here, well, we know what he's doing here. He's trying to get a little bit better viewpoint to help his optics a little bit to see those stumps under the water. Kevin mentioned to us earlier that pollen on the top of the water made them hard to see. Kevin Vandam, always one of the most resourceful anglers. No quit in him, no matter whether he's having a great tournament, a bad one, or even a bad season.
You know, it's been a really tough year for me. This is the first cut that I've made all season long. We've had extreme conditions, weather, things, but I just haven't had things go my way. I can't, haven't been able to, get a break. And, this week things have kind of gone my way a little bit. And you never know. Tomorrow I got a shot, or I'm in, contention at least to win the tournament. And maybe everything will just work out. Maybe the moon and the stars will line up. I'm hungry to win. I want to win bad.
Kevin Vandam's fished hundreds of tournaments, but he's got one of the greatest winning percentages of all time. He's usually there when things get tough.
And where is Zell Rowland at? He's moved out of his spot.
He has left his old place, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's actually up on that saddle right now. He may have got tired of catching fish out there. He's just kind of moving around and having fun. And I tell you what, it's a funny statement here, Tommy. His score doesn't reflect what a good day he has had. Do you realize that he's caught nearly 30 keepers off of that spot?
Every time we take a look at him, he's catching a fish, and we haven't been with him but about a third of the time today.
And look at the culling right here. That again amazes me. We don't normally show culling. We don't pay any attention to it. You have to pay attention to the fish he was turning loose.
Kevin Vandam has not quit yet, that is for sure. He's always grinding. He's always trying to figure out a way to somehow turn things around in his favor.
And you know what? That's what I think of when I think of Kevin Vandam. Most people think, oh, that's the great fisherman that fishes so fast. I automatically, Tommy, think of a fierce competitor.
This was an old fish hatchery years ago when they had a levee around it. They pumped water in here, and there was a fish hatchery for the lake. And the old dike that held the water in this pond, or this hatchery, has eroded away over time. And of course now it's accessible through the lake. You can get in here, and it's been that way, I guess, for several years. But years ago, this was a sanctuary. It was a hatchery.
Well, I felt like damn Houdini catching that big mother on you, wacky, you sorry weasel. Ah, dang it. I'm gonna talk ugly about you. You get me another one.
Larry Nixon, he's hard on those wacky worms, but for a good reason, and he gets a lot of good results as well. Right now, let's get over to Marc Davis. And Marc, I wanted to ask you, this is a week that will undoubtedly go down in history, one of the biggest fish-catching weeks of all time on the Bassmasters. And what do you think are the things that really came together to create these situations this week?
2 or 3 things has happened, really. Number one, we've had a lot of rain, and the lake got higher, fuller than it has been in several years. And you've got a lot of good flooded grasses and good cover for the fish to get in, just like this stuff I'm fishing right here. And that coupled with the weather and the water temperature, and we just hit it just right, just as the fish were really coming in shallow, and we couldn't have timed it better, I don't think.
Marc, fishing the floating lures, the floating plastics, that's certainly been a big part of this week and everything that's going on here. What's the secret? What's the secret to catching them on a floating lure?
Well, there's several aspects of it, and we call it floating, but actually you want that lure to sink slowly, and the rate of fall is very critical as far as whether or not you're going to be successful with it. So line size comes into play. Definitely the hook size comes into play, and you can go up to a bigger hook, and that'll help it sink. You can go to lighter line, that will help it sink. Of course, sometimes you don't want it to sink fast, so you go back up to heavier line, and you've also got fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon line sinks, whereas nylon monofilament floats, so you have some variables there as well.
You've got it. You see it everywhere else. What is it about that pink color that makes it such a popular color in a floating worm?
Well, that's a good question. I'm actually throwing methylate.
Methylate, okay.
Which is a fluorescent orange, and I don't know why them fish like it so well, but you know, I have found over the years that when fish are really biting floating worms, it really doesn't matter what color. I've seen many times you catch them on black, catch them on white, yellow, bubblegum, pink, you catch them on the methylate like I'm throwing, or probably any color, but it's that silhouette of that worm moving through the water that really attracts the fish, I think.
So you just get the color that looks good to you, right?
That's it.
All right, thanks, Mark.
That's it. Everybody loves Marc Davis. And we've got a race for second place. Here's Larry Nixon slipping up on his old buddy Davis. And, hey, Zell Rowland still has a shot at 100. That's what I'm shooting for. And I did want to point out one more thing about this quacky worm. The strike is normally so subtle. You throw it out there and the fish just eases over to it and puts it in his mouth and swims away. Matter of fact, you better be watching your line.
By the time the culling is done, that fish will not allow Nixon to catch Marc Davis, so the race for second is still on. A few more minutes of fishing left to go, so don't go away. Time for some last-minute moves. Just a few minutes of fishing left to go in our Sitco Bassmaster Tour event on Santee Cooper here in South Carolina. This is the way it shaped up all day. Zell Rowland versus that magic 100-pound figure. Could be the second angler ever in history to get 100 pounds for a 4-day event. Marc Davis and Larry Nixon still slugging it out for second place. That one's definitely not decided yet. Evers, Vandam, and Morgenthaler all knotted fairly tightly there close to the bottom.
Tommy did a great job with the scoreboard right there. We do have some races going on here. Evers, well, I don't know if he can pick up enough weight to jump up with Nixon and Davis. So, boy, he better tend to his business because there's a couple of guys that are fast on his tail, aren't they?
Absolutely. Kevin Vandam, Chad Morgenthaler, either one of those guys could overtake Edwin Evers at this point. But consider this, if he hadn't incurred the infraction yesterday, if he hadn't showed up at the weigh-in with 6 fish in his live well and lost effectively 5 pounds, it wouldn't be an issue at all. Consider also that he just lost a big fish on the Cinco a few minutes ago. And, hey, considering those things, Edwin Evers would be in second place by himself.
Well, forget about Evers for right now. Nixon has hooked a very good fish by that stump, and he has lost him, Tommy. Can you believe that?
Now, what did I do wrong on you? Finally got one to bite, and he's a dang 4-pounder, and let him get away.
Tommy, is Larry coming over to dinner at your house tonight?
I don't know. Larry is a nice guy, but I tell you what, when he's out on the water and he is fishing, his attitude is always one of kind of slight agitation. Have you ever noticed that? That's right. The way he works. That's what works for him.
And just think of the group of fishermen we have out on the water today. Yes. What a bunch of competitors, every single one of them.
Of course, as we watch Zell Rowland here, we're reminded of what you said, Jerry. He did most of his competition when he did his scouting, when he found this place, and he knew what he had. Just like you said, he doesn't have to be competitive today. He just got to reap the benefits.
And I want to repeat, he really took good care of his fish. He didn't go in there and hammer them in practice. He found them, didn't bother them again until the event started, and then just seemed to catch the exact amount. As a matter of fact, Tommy, he caught enough fish on one particular day that he went over in another area and anchored and didn't fish anymore. And that's what I'd call taking care of your fish.
Zell Rowland now moves within 1.5 pounds of that magic 100-pound mark. We also see that Marc Davis has added a fish, culled again, and he's 1 pound more ahead of Larry Nixon for that second-place spot.
Tommy, you take care of the Nixon-Davis battle, and I'll watch Zell after 100.
That 100-pound mark is really the only challenge Zell has left to battle against today, and I got to admit it's a lot of fun to watch as time is ticking away. I don't think that fish is going to help him.
You're right. He's still stuck on that 98.5 spot, which is not a bad place to get stuck. 98.5 pounds. Larry Nixon, hey, the guys are running out of time. He's actually on his way back to the weigh-in area, and he flipped a little tube by the boat dock.
Is that a stroke of luck or what?
Well, stroke of luck or not, that's enough to tie once again this race between Marc Davis and Larry Nixon. So we got Zell Rowland on a history-making mission today. We got a great battle between Davis and Nixon. Hey, we got it all.
And Davis may have had the last shot.
He has certainly answered that one, that's for sure.
Tommy, you and I have been doing this for several years now, and I don't think we've ever seen this many fish caught by 6 competitors. Would you agree?
Absolutely, I would agree. This is the best fishing we've ever seen, and Chad Morgenthaler's looking for one more.
Old Chad may pull it out right here.
Looked like a good fish, yes.
How about that? Kevin Vandam has had it tough all day long, and he has gone steadily down the ladder. And here comes Chad, sitting there ready to jump on him. And that's great for this youngster, to think that he's competed with this type of talent all day long.
Chad Morgenthaler and Edwin Evers. Boy, these guys are with some fast company here in the Super 6. What a great, great day for them. Crowd likes it. Will it be enough to overtake Kevin Vandam, make a few extra $1,000 for Chad Morgenthaler? That and all the other questions will be answered when we come back with the weigh-in from Santee Cooper on the Citgo Bassmaster Tour.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Yamaha, by Citgo, and by Bush.
Before we get to the weigh-in, I want to show you how you can tell anglers are catching big fish on this lake this week. Joining me now is Kevin Vandam. All right, show me your hands. What are we talking about? They are all torn up. What causes this?
Well, that was a 7.5-pounder right there, and this was a couple of 6-pounders here, and that was another 7-pounder right there. When you catch those big fish, they tear you deep in the hands, and I tell you, it's awesome. When you've had a great day, all you got to do is look at your hands, and you can tell a guy's caught them.
You grin and bear it, a little pain. It's all worth it, right?
I love my hands to look like that.
And I'm sure your wife does not. We wish you luck at weigh-in. Fish, take it away.
Kirsten and I have been waiting all week for this, the final round. Are you guys at Santee Cooper ready? He's going to go to the Bassmasters Classic for the first time in his career. Chad Morgenthaler, come on!
Chad Morgenthaler had a slow start, but got a big fish near the end of the day to move from 6th place to 5th. Larry Nixon, it wasn't his favorite kind of fishing, but as long as he's contending, he will do what it takes. Today he couldn't win that battle with Marc Davis and finishes in 3rd place.
16-4.
Edwin Evers. Momentum is a powerful thing. It carried him from the win at the last tournament at Eufaula to challenge again this week. Today, Edwin Evers finishes in 4th place.
He's the only man to win the Citgo Bassmasters Classic and the Angler of the Year title in the same season. Please welcome Marc Davis.
Marc Davis stayed with it all day long, fished hard, and finally won that battle for 2nd place with Larry Nixon.
How you doing?
Doing good. Had a good week. Had a lot of fun. Things didn't go for me today the way I hoped they would, but that's fishing.
One of the top dogs in the sport of bass fishing today. He needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. Welcome, Kevin Vandam! What is it about you? You're always in striking distance.
Well, you know, it's one of those things. I work real hard at it, and, you know, I love to fish real fast, and this is a week down here right now that you can't really do that. You know, it helps me get into an area where the fish are at, but today was just one of those days where I lost my mojo.
Kevin Vandam wanted it, no question about that, but just couldn't find a way and finishes in 6th.
Zell Rowland, a chance to win the Citgo Bassmaster Tour on Lake Santee. Cooper! Your champion!
Zell Rowland laid the groundwork. He found the fish and never strayed from the plan. He caught the 2nd biggest 4-day total in BASS history.
98 pounds and 9 ounces. Zell, you said you wanted 100 pounds after the first round of competition, and you're just a few ounces short. Congratulations.
Thank you, Fish. No, this week was really incredible, especially today. This is a 4th win for me, and I'm looking forward to going to the Classic.
Been doing this since he was 13 years old. His wife Kim's here, and here's a check, Zell and Mrs. Rowland, for $100,000 in cash.
Well, it certainly has come together this week for Zell Rowland to win the $100,000 first prize. And as we look at the Bush Angler of the Year stats, there's Zell Rowland right there in third place, lurking behind Elton Luce and Bud Pruitt, but some other big names on that list as well. We see Jay Yellis. We also see Alton Jones, Shaw Grigsby, and look out for Marc Davis. Don't take your eyes off of him. Our Citgo Rookie of the Year angler statistics. Quickly, Jeff Reynolds maintains his lead there, followed by Mark Kyle, Mike Reynolds, and another one of our Super Six today, Chad Morgenthaler. And Jerry, Zell hasn't been gone anywhere, but I guess you could say this week completes a comeback for him.
I'm a little disappointed in Zell. Yeah, 98.5 pounds. Come on, if he'd have really got in there, he could have broke that 100-pound mark.
So it was a failure for Zell. I don't think he'd agree.
Boy, he is the man. I'm so proud of him.
We've caught so many big fish this week, you'd think we couldn't top it, but we go to the West Coast next time, and it could actually be even better.
We go to the San Joaquin River Delta, the largest stringer of fish they've ever had in an open. SS Open was 78 pounds in 3 days. We would have beaten that on this go-around on Santee Cooper. And the largest fish ever caught in a BASS event came from right there in the Delta, 14.9. Can we top that?
That'd be worth the price of a ticket, and you will have a ticket next time when we see you on the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.